Most people don't know I speak this much. I have so many questions. I'm nervous. I'm scared. You always have to move as a brand. I always move as a brand.
What is up, my people? We are back with another episode of The Connected Podcast. I'm your host, John Rios. I am super excited today. I know I say that every episode, but I really am because this particular guest, my brother Kenny, he and I speak the same language in terms of business and entrepreneurship. He actually hates that word. We're going to get into him, why he hates that word as well. But really excited to get on here and talk about him and his success and the things that he's done in his entrepreneurial journey. Also talking about, you know, some pitfalls to avoid and things that, you know, may come up along your way because that's a part of one of his businesses. He's a serial entrepreneur. He helps business owners and does some consulting in that space as well. So Kenny, please, bro, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me, man. It's crazy. This is a full circle moment. This is a product of consistency. Yourself, flow behind the camera. This is all part of our journey. We've crossed paths in different scenarios, and full circle. We're all here because of that, right?
Facts.
So, yeah, man. Entrepreneur.
I don't want to get the titles wrong, but COO, CMO of WAHIZZA.
So I am founder of DMG.
Okay.
DMG is Decoded Management Group. It's a management company. So it's a boutique management company that handles everything from accounting to marketing to anything that has to do with the management of a business.
Okay.
Focused on accounting, though.
Got it.
I truly believe that the financial of a business is the heart,
The bloodline,
right? That's the bloodline. That's it. I have a meeting tomorrow. The first thing is, let me see the financials. That allows me to properly plan and adjust. So that's what I focus on. And I have a strong team of accountants and bookkeepers that provide service to everyone from small business, startup to multi-million-dollar companies.
So
part of that, I also am the COO and CMO of the WAHIZZA Group, which is a Dominican Italian fusion pizzeria.
okay.
And COO of another space in management in real estate.
Okay.
That's more corporate, so it's just
Okay.
one of those things that. But yeah, I'm COO of pretty much everything that I do.
Dope. You said a couple things I can't wait to get into, especially the finance stuff on with business owners.
Gotcha.
So, but before we get to that, tell me a little bit about the upbringing, where you from.
Yeah, man, I'm a kid from Washington Heights, man.
Okay.
Born and raised Washington Heights, literally on the same block as one of my pizzerias.
Oh, dope.
That's
dope.
another full circle.
That's a full circle.
Full
moment
circle.
there.
I didn't realize it until in the midst of construction. It's like, yeah, I grew up on the
crazy.
same block, right? So yeah, Washington Heights. I did move around a lot.
Okay.
So I did move around. I lived downtown. I grew up in part of my life. I was in Chelsea.
Okay.
Downtown. I lived in Miami for a long period of time. So I did move around. So I have the ability to adapt, I guess, is part of life. But I am originally from Washington Heights, born and raised there.
Okay. Was like being a business owner or like running your own company something that you always had envisioned from young, or did you have people in your family that had that background that gave you that idea? Or was that something that came much later? Because that's what it was for me. It was much later on.
Yeah, as a kid, I always understood business. Since I could remember, I could say 9, 10 years old, I could understand business. I understood, like I was intrigued of how everything works, right?
Yeah.
We're here, we're shooting a podcast. I'm trying to understand how the business of podcast works.
Okay.
Later we'll talk of my career path, but I was in real estate for many years. I was more intrigued of the business of real estate, not necessarily real estate.
Got it.
So I have a tax firm, have hundreds of clients. I'm always more curious of the business of taxes than I am. You understand? So
Yeah.
that's like kind of how my mind always worked since I was a kid. My parents are not entrepreneurs. My mom is in corporate. My dad was also, he dabbled into entrepreneurship, but he always had a regular job. I was always intrigued. I always knew I was going to get to that point, but I also knew my limitations. I also knew what my comfort zone was. So I think I held out as long as possible.
So when you say held out, you were working like corporate jobs prior to that?
Not gonna lie, I did have stints in different businesses.
Okay.
So I think my first business that I started at 18 years old was a website business, ironically, right? Don't ask me how to create a website. Don't know how to, but I partnered up with someone that at the time, he knew how to create websites. And this is like
I was about to say, because at 18, that was probably like when the website era,
was
the
beginning.
.com era was just starting.
Correct. So back to what I'm saying is I understood the business behind. I was behind the scenes. It's just, let's make it happen. Let's the meetings, let's close the deals. But I personally did not know how to
build
a
so you
website.
saw supply and demand.
Supply and demand. And this kid, he understood. I remember Flash and Adobe was like new. So at the time, websites, we're aging ourselves, but websites at the time was kind of like just dialogue. You just read, right? And he comes and he shows me, he's like, look, this is this thing called Flash. So when you went into your website, like you had just actual graphics and movements. That was unheard of back then.
Yeah.
So we started a few $1,000s in. We had a business. Looking back at it, it was really not a business. We were just making money. It was not organized, but it was a business and it was a learning experience. One thing I learned from that I take on is always understand your value, right? Just because it costs you $100, $200, $300, $1,000, just understand that if the market is $5,000, charge $5,000 or charge within that. Don't try to underbid just because it's easy for you.
Yeah.
One thing I learned from that was that we were getting so much volume because we're undervalued.
So
we're so low. And we're just young kids. I'm 18, 19 years old. And we're just taking as much work as possible. But then realize that now we're exchanging our time for money. And it's minimal. It's a reason why a real estate company website back then was like 10 grand. And we charged $3. And then the time that it took away from everything else.
You said something there that I thought was interesting. You said we thought it was a business, but it wasn't. What would make you say, now knowing what you know, what made it not be a business?
I don't even think we was incorporated. So we weren't even incorporated. We had a concept, we had a name.
Yeah.
Love the name to this day. Every time I say it, people's like, that's dope. But we were knowing what I know now, like just the structure.
Yeah.
That's what I do. This my day-to-day is structuring businesses. It wasn't a business.
Yeah.
And we made a decent amount of money. It wasn't really a business. It's important now. It's a partnership. So you understand the dynamic of dealing with partners. So at 18, 19 is a learning experience. But it was just that.
Did that experience with the website business discourage you, or did you say, maybe I'll revisit this in another way, or what was the next step? What was the next thing after that?
I think that this is a journey, man. It's life, you know. I never saw it as it did not work. You know how many businesses in the last 5 years have not worked for me?
Yeah.
And even now, I just see it as next. What's next? I'm always what's next, what's around the corner. So it wasn't discouraged. I think to look back at it, I still reference to like how to act, how to move, how to interact. Understood partnership at a young age, business partnership at a very young age. So I never saw it as, it never discouraged me. I don't think I was maybe too young, but I did focus on the corporate side.
Okay.
Right. So I was operations coordinator for JetBlue for about almost 9 years.
Wow. Okay.
At the same time, I had consulting companies in the medical space, medical research space. So I've always had some type of hand on entrepreneurship or the operations of a business since I was young, in my early 20s. But life happens, man, and the journey took me on to like the real estate side.
Yeah.
And on and on and on until.
So you being in JetBlue for 9 years, because I feel like for me, I was in the medical field or healthcare industry for 17 years. Don't you feel like that gives you so much of a blueprint? Like
It
now,
does.
like once you've been in corporate for so long, now it's like, oh shit, this is why they do this.
Got you.
Yeah.
It's what's crazy. So I'm an executive for a tax company. About 400 locations throughout the U.S. And once again, my operational mind goes in and is like, create structure. We have to create structure. And that comes from the corporate side.
Yeah.
And let's create structure. Let's create, build teams and things of that nature. So yes, you do pick that up. I think from my role as an operational guy at JetBlue is the ability to handle and multitask at a high level. When you're dealing with, cancellations and storms and 500 people on Thanksgiving Day can't go home, and you're the guy that has to sit there and talk to 500 families telling them they're not going home.
Yeah.
There's nothing that I go through from that moment, from that day on, that gets me like flustered. Nothing at all. In business, there's nothing that I could face that gets me, so that's what I pick up. It's that.
But you pick up those skills and you don't realize until you're in the entrepreneurial space that that's where you got that from. Because for me, I managed a staff of 8 or 9 people in Bronx, Lebanon's emergency room, and I worked in the psych ER. Bronx, Lebanon's medical emergency room is at the time was the second busiest ER in the nation. So you running around going crazy. Then you come over here to my entrepreneurial journey was in real estate. So it's like, yo, this is nothing. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like showing houses, selling cribs. Like I was just in the war zone, you know what I'm saying? So you pick up like a lot of the dope skills in the corporate space that you have to be aware that you're applying in business.
That same thing. So from that, I moved on. I transitioned over to property management at a high level. I think from my initiation into that space, I was managing high-end real estate in Miami, towers with concierge and valet, the whole idea of what it is. And it's also a high stressful job. That's a 24-hour job. That is a situation where you have to know everything. You have to know legal. You need to know construction. You need to know real estate. You need to know absolutely everything, because you need to know absolutely everything. That's just the what it entails. And I've dealt with leaks and floods and fires, and my demeanor has always remained. And it's just like, where do you get this from? It's like, well, have you been in front of 500 people to maybe 650 people on Thanksgiving night, letting them know they're not going home and they have to sleep in the airport? Have you dealt with that? You know what that is?
Yeah.
It's a problem. We're going to solve it. There's a solution to it.
Yeah.
But it's not the end of the world, right? So those are things you learn from corporate, right? And that's what I took over to the real estate management side, right? That was kind of the springboard to like fully entrepreneurship, because you have to do everything in that space.
Yeah.
From multi-million-dollar construction projects to staff of 50, 60 to board meetings. And people don't, once I say this, your idea of a property, even where we are standing right now, changes. This building is a corporation.
Yeah.
Right? It pays taxes, it has shares, et cetera, et cetera. So once I realized about year 10 in managing real estate is that I'm managing 13, 14 corporations. Every single thing that it entails to run a business, I'm doing it times 13, times 14 in New York City, in Tribeca, in Chelsea. So once my idea is like, okay, if I can do that, give me anything else. It's just a walk in the park.
Yeah. And it's funny you say that because, like, obviously commercial real estate and residential real estate are completely different. I'm 10 years in real estate, and I realized about 2 years ago that I was completely detached from the experience because I only looked at it as a business. I only looked like, and I'm sorry for the people that see this, my clients, whatever. Like, I didn't care, bro. I didn't care about, like, getting you the house, that your dog is gonna be able to play in the backyard. I didn't give a fuck about that. Like, and I didn't care about the money. I just cared about how to build out the business for it to grow, for it to succeed, for it to thrive. That was what I was concerned about. And I get that. I see that with what you're saying. Like, you apply that to everything that you're doing in business. You're not looking at the product. You're not looking at the service. It's just, how do we make money? How do we move the wheel?
It's solution based.
Yeah.
It's solution based, and that's anything. I could walk into this studio right now, and people could be pulling their hair, and it's like, take a step back. What's the problem? Give me 2 minutes, and I have a solution.
Yeah.
That's in anything. So that's my approach. That's how I handle every business. It's not a business that there's businesses I don't have interest in, or I stay away from, or not my thing. But the overall operational aspect, there's nothing that I can't solve or get my hands in, add value to, and that's what that's what I do every day.
So tell me a little bit about WAHIZZA, man. Tell me about that. Tell me about the inception of that. Cause like I said before, funny thing, man, I only knew you as WAHIZZA for a while. That's how I referred to you as WAHIZZA.
It's crazy. When you say that, everyone meets me at different parts of business. Most people know me as Kenny Taxes.
Okay.
Right. That was a name that picked up. My transition over to full entrepreneurship came through taxes. So probably about 5 years, probably about 7, 8 years ago, because I was heavily on corporate tax because of the properties, I started my tax company, right? So I partnered up with a good friend of mine and business partner now by the name of John Hernandez.
Okay.
This gentleman was about 15 years ago, started his own tax firm and grew it to probably 1,000 clients. Very successful.
Dope.
About 5 years ago, 5, 6 years ago, he decided to teach individuals how to do taxes and kind of created like a partnership. But instead, what he did was, you get paid as the owner, just provide me with a small fee. Good friend of mine, I was going to start my own tax firm, right? I'm trying to get out of corporate at this time. And I hit him up for guidance on software. Hey, what kind of software you use? I know you've been in this game. You're a good friend of mine. And he's like, look, I'm starting this partnership. I'll handle everything for you. Just got to give me a small percentage. Software, laptops, teach everything. We'll handle your billing. We'll do everything. I was like, so you telling me you handle everything for me and I can just focus on building my clientele base? I'm independent. I don't work for you. I don't do anything. He was like, yeah, that's it. Sign me up.
Sign me up. Right?
Sign me up. It allows me to do more, right? The main thing with us in our space is when we have to do it all, we're exchanging time. We lose time. So to me, it was just like, okay, no brainer. I can still, at the time I was still working corporate. I could build my clientele base and they handle everything for me. This goes back to something you say. It's like jumping on the plane. It's a viral quote of yours, right? It's that. Okay, if he has something, he's minimizing my risk factor.
Yeah.
Why not, right? And that's what I did. And then fast forward, build my clientele base, eventually jumped on as an executive of the company. And now that company is probably valued well over $30 million.
Wow.
Has 400 locations in the US.
Sheesh.
Right? That's what started, right? But that to me is the heartbeat to everything I do. Because it's financials. It's the finance of a business. To me, that's in everything I do. When it was in real estate, to me, the financial aspect is the bloodline, is the heart of the business. It's the structure of the business. I say this all the time, and I have a strong self-employed client base. Is it does not matter your talent. If your structure is off, your business is gonna have a hard time reaching 3 to 4 years.
Yeah.
And that's my experience, and that's what I like to teach. That's what let's create that structure so that you can have a long lasting business. That led to obviously allowing me to go fully self-employed, entrepreneurships, started different businesses. What happens is once you understand the financial of the business and you understand the marketing and create a concept, you could create a business. I could create a business
Yeah.
immediately. You can as well. I've had all types of businesses. Some worked, most don't.
Yeah.
That's life, right?
Yeah.
That's the stuff that people don't like
Yeah.
to talk about. The WAHIZZA Group. WAHIZZA Group is founded by, say, one of my mentors in business, someone that since I was young, an innovator. I say he's solely responsible for the nightlife in Uptown. He might not get the credit. He might not say it himself, but it's clear, right? He had a concept that he created 10 years ago. It was kind of like a side business. It was created as a speakeasy to one of his nightclubs.
Dope.
Right? So that's how WAHIZZA was created 10 years ago. But it was, when you're dabbling into the nightlife and nightclubs and other businesses, a pizzeria is kind of like, it's a nice business.
Yeah.
But when you're, doing numbers at a nightclub with celebrities such as Jay-Z, Beyonce, everyone.
Yeah.
You're really not focusing on the pizzeria. Fast forward, pandemic hits, right? And you start realizing that the industries that survive pandemics and recessions and Great Depressions are Italian food, Mexican food, and if I'm not mistaken, Chinese food, right? So the cost of is affordable. WAHIZZA survived on its own, right? Fast forward, having a conversation, same thing, strategizing. His name is Junior, lets me know that he's interested in franchising, right? We were sitting probably a month after opening up Richfield Park, which was the first Jersey location. This was December of 2022. He informed me, what's on your mind? What is it that you see? And he's like, I'm trying to franchise this. It's a concept at the time. We're looking at probably 8 years, not 7 years, 8 years. It has IP. There's a trademark of the signature pizza, which is the CHIMI pizza. So there is value in it.
So was that always the game plan? Was that always like to franchise it out and have multiple locations? No. Okay.
No. Conversation like you and I have conversations, right? So what's the game plan? What's the idea? And that was a thought. So at the time, WAHIZZA stands for Washington Heights Pizza. Washington Heights closed. It was about 3 months that it was closed. So the first logical thing is, well, if you're trying to franchise this, Washington Heights has to reopen.
You need the home base.
Yeah, I'm not the smartest, I'm not here like a genius or all. But I would recommend that, Washington Heights reopens.
Yeah.
If we ever, I think at the time I was interested in opening up Miami. I have roots in Miami. I lived there for a long time. So, and that's how the conversation initiated. And it's like, well, if someone asks me, what does WAHIZZA stand for? And I say Washington Heights Pizza, the next question is, where in Washington Heights? And I just have to stand there and say, well,
it used to be there.
It used to be there, right? And so that was like conversation. We left it at that. About 2 weeks later, having another conversation, and he's like, well, you open it. And my response is, I don't have time.
Yeah.
I just don't. I just don't want to travel. It's in New York. Got my operations out of Jersey. On the off season, I move around. I travel a lot for business. He's like, well, I'm not opening it. He's like, I spent 30 years in Washington Heights. I'm happy. And like anyone else that's curious about the numbers behind anything or the business behind the business, my next question was, let me see the numbers.
See the numbers, yeah.
And I looked at the numbers. And then I opened Washington Heights.
It makes sense, yeah.
Right? So it was just that. It was a conversation. Like I said earlier, everything happens full circle. I crossed over. I looked at a couple of locations and landed on a street that I grew up in. And to me, it was the right operation. It wasn't too large. It was enough just to keep the brand in play. And that's what I did. And that right there is probably one of the best decisions I've made in the last, business-wise, in the last 10 years, because it allows me to meet individuals like yourself and Flo and things like that.
Yeah. What is that process like when you said you mentioned that you trademarked the name and not just the name, but that particular pizza? Like, what is that process like?
So my business partner and the founder of WAHIZZA, super smart individual when it comes to innovating, right? That's his strong suit. So I understand what I'm good at. I understand what my business partners in different businesses are good at. This is his strong suit. When he created the concept of a speakeasy and WAHIZZA was a speakeasy, when you were going into the club, you had to go into the pizzeria, exit through the pizzeria. If you're in New York, especially uptown, Washington Heights area, Bronx, parts of Brooklyn, Queens, most people like to go to food trucks afterwards and eat this CHIMI burger. It's not a chimichurri. We get that often, but it's like a CHIMI burger, which is like Angus beef, cabbage, and some type of like CHIMI sauce.
Yeah.
Right? That's the norm. So his idea was, how can I make this into a pizza? What happens is that it took off. This was almost 10 years ago. It took off. So, and that was a conversation I had with him earlier when I came on as CEO and opening up my own location, is the CHIMI pizza is more famous than the name.
Yeah.
CHIMI is more famous than WAHIZZA, right? We have to change that. We have to. And if you can see the marketing behind it in the last year and a half, it's focused on so many other items because we have a full menu. It's Italian. We do not play around with the Italian aspect of it.
Yeah.
We play around with the CHIMI pizzas and the oxtail pizzas and our specialties. But the CHIMI was famous. Everyone was leaving everywhere in New York City. They were pulling up. There was lines and lines of cars at 3, 4 in the morning just getting CHIMI pizza. To this day, I sell so many CHIMI pizzas.
Yeah.
It's quadruple the amount is mainly CHIMI pizzas. So he started the process of trademarking this 7, 8 years ago.
Wow.
It took him about 7, 8 years. In the food space, you cannot trademark the actual food, but
that's why I'm asking.
You can trademark the name.
Yeah, that's why I'm asking. So that's interesting because I've never heard of something like that before.
Yeah, so you can trademark the name, and that's what he did. So anyone that calls it CHIMI pizza, technically, should not. And that's how we started. So we started literally a conversation, opened up Broadway, a couple of blocks away from the original location. Our anniversary is actually, we hit a year. The actual 10 years of the brand is in September, so we have a lot planned for that.
Congrats, brother. Congrats. 10 years is a huge milestone.
It is, man. It is. And you don't really realize it because you're just, your head is down and you're just working, man. But that idea, that conversation of, I want to franchise it, that's a year ago. We're probably talking about 14 months ago. Since then, we have Clifton, New Jersey. That opened in January. We have Edgewater, New Jersey. That opened about 2 weeks ago. I announced Bayonne, New Jersey. I announced it this morning. That is for those that are closer to like Jersey City and Staten Island is close.
Yeah.
That one is under construction now. And I think probably one of the best locations. I'm super excited. I literally just signed the lease a day ago. is Englewood, New Jersey.
Dope.
So that's gonna be a game changer. That's gonna be WAHIZZA 2.0. It's gonna be a same concept, same thing, just taking it up a notch. But that's the new one coming, man. From a conversation a year ago, from one location to 6 in 14 months
That's huge,
crazy.
brother. Congrats, man. So those are all under the same group. They're not independently owned.
So the only ones that independently owns are the ones I'm involved. Richfield Park is independently owned.
Okay.
The other ones are all franchise.
Got it.
Englewood is mine as well.
Dope.
So that's independently owned. Richfield Park is independently owned, and the other ones are franchise. So what happens is, and this goes back to like, you know, I'm a true believer, right? We're having this conversation. We can sit here and talk about all the success, right? I personally don't see it that way. Like I just don't sit around, walk around my home and say like I'm so successful.
Yeah.
Right. It's not. I think that when we say we speak the same language is because we get up every single day and we just work towards something, right?
Yeah.
I'm not moved by money. I never speak about money. As long as my kids are fine, my home is taken care of, I'm not driven by money, right? So, I can't sit here and say I'm uber successful. I'm just, we get up every single day and we work towards something. What you're seeing is, I have no problem being a part of something, right? If I truly believe in the brand, if I truly believe in what you have going on or what Flow has going on, I know what I bring to the table, right? So I never want to, I'm not focused on creating, at least right now, creating something that's my name is on it. Right?
Yeah.
I have absolutely no problem being, like you said, jumping on that plane, right? Because I know that every plane that I jumped on or any concept or any brand that I jumped on, it's an instant value that I bring to the table. I had the conversation earlier on before I even opened Broadway. I mentioned is like, all we have to do is proof of concept and watch what's going to happen. And exactly like that is what we're experiencing.
Yeah.
So we have either individuals that just love the concept and decide to invest their money in franchise, right? We have individuals that own a pizzeria. They are currently operating a pizzeria and are trying to negotiate switching over to our concept, right? So it's one of those things that they see value in, it's mine, it's John's Pizzeria, but hey, these guys are doing something. I like what they're doing. I'll give them a percentage just to bring their concept or bring the asset, their value
name
to
over,
it, right? Because it's not, there's a million pizzerias. It's not the pizzeria. It's not a CHIMI pizza.
Yeah.
It's the vision, it's the marketing, the consistency. You see, that's what most are lacking. So it's growing that fast because there's people that are selfless. They're like, hey, I like what you guys are doing. I don't need to create my own. I'll jump on the plane with you guys. I believe in what you guys got going on. I don't have to reinvent the wheel. That's why that particular concept works.
That's dope. So I wanted to get back to something that you said earlier, which was around the finances, because that's obviously your wheelhouse. And I feel like I could speak from experience because that was like one of my like most devastating moments in business myself. I went through a lot of tax issues, to say the least, deep tax shit. And, it's one of those things that entrepreneurs run from. At the time I had a business coach and he was like, show me your P&L. And I was like, the fuck is that? So why do you think that, especially like with as many entrepreneurs as you work with, that's like the scariest part that people are like, oh, I don't want to touch that. I don't want to go there.
I think it's like anything else, man. If my conversations are recorded and you can hear me speak to 20 different entrepreneurs, new, seasoned, 30 years in the game, celebrities, hood celebrities, however, any demographic, The moment you tell them you're no different than 90% of the other people, you can hear them breathe. Like literally it's just, don't worry about it. I've been through that. I learned, I messed up. That's why I'm able to have this conversation.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it. 90% of my clients are going through the same thing. It's like, all right, cool.
Yeah.
Now let's go to the solution. 90% of the space in entrepreneurs struggle in that aspect. It's not easy for me, and this is what I do.
Yeah.
Right? There's habits that we have to learn. There's bad habits we need to break.
Yeah.
Right? So that's the number one thing. It's a conversation of you're no different than 90% of the people I deal with. Everyone thinks the next person has figured it out. It's figured the situation.
Yeah.
And it's not the case.
Yeah.
Right? It's not the case. And I think that's where, once I start having those conversations, where it's like, don't worry about it. That was me 3 years ago. That was me 5 years ago. That was me last year. As long as you follow up with a solution or a game plan, then they get comfortable. So no one wants to say that they don't know what a P&L is.
Yeah.
But I guarantee you that if I speak to 10 people today, 9 don't know what a P&L is.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Right? And they're successful.
Yeah.
I'm speaking of successful clients of mine that have seen M's, and I've had word for word successful clients of mine say, I'd rather go get a 9 to 5, but they made $1 million. That's how stressed it is. It's like, man, this is too much. I'd rather go back to a 9 to 5. The company that I'm an exec for has 400 people doing the same thing as me. There's 10,000 taxes accountants throughout the world. Same way there's 1 million pizzerias. I stick to what I feel comfortable with.
Yeah.
Let's simplify it. Let's speak to the up and comers. Let's speak to the seasoned guys. Anyone that's willing to take the time, and let's work together to get over the hurdle. Tax problems is not. It's common.
Yeah.
It's a common thing. I know people that I work closely with right now to this day that have had huge tax problems, but it's not nothing to be ashamed of.
Yeah.
It's nothing I can easily get into a tax issue. Like it's so simple that someone that has a tax company can get into tax problems. That's how disciplined you have to be. For those that are starting, just don't try to ignore it. That's a common thing. I ignore it. Don't ignore it. Don't think you're by yourself. The person that you're close with, the entrepreneur that you look up to, the celebrity that you look up to, probably most likely does not have it figured out. So don't think you're different. Don't feel ashamed about it. I have these conversations daily. It's just let's just simplify it. Get into some good habits. Don't follow everything you see on TikTok. Don't follow everything you see on YouTube. And just, have the conversation. Find someone that you're comfortable with. I think that's kind of like what I bring to my clients, is the comfort of there's no judgment. I messed up a couple of years ago, not to the extent of it's bad, but you get into bad habits, right? One of the main things I see to it, and I just say this point and we can move on, is our society is brought up when it comes to taxes to minimize and have the least amount of of profit, right? And it's just, and that's
Write it all off.
Write it all off. My accountant is the best. I paid 0 taxes.
Yeah.
And I tell my clients all the time, don't call me in July when you're at the dealership and you can't get your car.
Cause you on paper made 20 grand.
You made 20 grand. I'm trying to be on vacation.
Yeah.
Trying to, play some golf,
Yeah.
right? That's the thing, right? If you made 20 grand, you made 20 grand. Let's have a different conversation. Let's work on your marketing. Let's work on your concept. Let's have different conversations. But if you did make the money, let's talk about your plan, right? Because you can leverage that income. I always say don't have a good tax return go to waste. So if you had a good year that's on paper, let's figure out what's the next move. Let's get you into some real estate. Let's get you into some, funding so you can grow your business. Let's not go, because you have 2 years of tax returns. If you have a good year of tax return, it's like, what's the plan? Don't let it go to waste. You need a home. You're trying to get a home. Let's try. This is the time, right? Because in business, there's ups and downs. So you might have a good 2-3 years. This is the time for you to leverage, because you might have some down years. So those are the type of conversations that I like to have with my clients.
What would you say has been like your biggest obstacle or hurdle as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, that you feel like was the most difficult for you to overcome?
I think is me. I've been behind the scenes my whole life. I feel more comfortable there. So the having to constantly create the content and your brand yourself, right? I tell people all the time, you're a brand. That's something I probably understood young also. Like, you're a brand. Don't take that you're John, but you're a brand.
Yeah.
Right? I'm Kenny. I'm always a brand. I'm a brand when I'm around my friends. I'm a brand when I'm in any of my businesses. I'm a brand. People like to be professional when they're at a networking event or they're at work, right? They're super professional, but then they go out and they're, acting up. But guess what? When you need a job or you need a referral, right? If I was acting up, if I wasn't conscious of how I move, are you gonna refer me to a job?
Yeah.
Are you gonna include me into any business situation?
Yeah.
No, right? Because I'm just forgetting that I'm being seen, right? Oh, these are my friends. These are my brothers. Well, always keep in mind that you always have to move as a brand. I always move as a brand. I tell my team, always move as a brand, even around people you don't know, even around your friends, even around your family.
So you would say that you were your biggest obstacle. Yeah, I get that. I get that. Because it's doing the things that we're not comfortable doing. You know what I mean? We like to be behind the scenes. And it's funny you bring up that part about the brand, because a lot of the entrepreneurs that I work with are realtors.
Yeah.
And, it's cool to say that they're a business owner, because once they get out of school or real estate school and they got their license, now they're a 1099 employee. So it's like, oh, I'm a business owner. But yet every single realtor, and I do this religiously, like, you constantly putting up your marketing with Keller Williams, Century 21, Sotheby's, like, and I would tell people, like, what about you? Like, what about your brand? Oh, nah, but I work for this company. Okay. Your client remembers you. They don't, 9 out of 10 times you sell somebody a house, they have a dope experience with you. No matter
what it is.
They don't remember. You go back and say, yo, what company Kenny worked for? Nah, they remember you, the service you provided, what you did. And I would tell realtors that from day one, yo, start your brand right now. Start your branding now. And they'd be like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm going to do that. And people don't get that. People don't get that.
I also understood that unless I'm willing to brand myself as an agent, right? You just stole my name. You WAHIZZA. You saw me. You saw WAHIZZA, right? So if no one saw me in that space, in my mind, if no one saw and related Kenny with real estate, then I should get out the game, right? And this was way before I was what they consider a social media ghost.
Yeah.
I was barely posed. I was minimal. But I understood marketing. I understood this always. And in my mind, it's like, look, if you're not going to brand yourself and promote yourself, that when someone says real estate, your name doesn't pop up, get out. And this is essentially what I did. when I decided to go full blown, and this is the thing, right? You don't really get the support, right? You have to go out and build something, and then you start seeing you start getting the support. So to me, it's just, man, it's way easier just to stay behind the scenes.
Yeah.
It's way easier. But then is who else is gonna push your brand besides you, right? So it's a constant battle that I struggle, right? So, when I'm walking through the office, we have a headquarters in Jersey, and when I go into like my rants and stuff, it's just like 2 years and I'm out, 2 years and no one's gonna see me, right? All my companies are gonna be doing numbers, and I just don't have to be in the way, right? Ideally, that's what someone like myself or probably you would love,
Yeah.
right? But man, we just have to be out here.
Yeah, especially in the era we're in right now, bro. Yeah, the era that we're in right now, I feel like the scale has tipped so much to where, marketing has really and brand awareness has really controlled the business, and it's not an option. You don't have a choice. You don't have a choice. And I would tell like, and all of the realtors when I started my company, I did it by accident. I ordered a bunch of signs for my team, and when I got the signs in the mail, I was dumb hype, and I was like went outside and I put them on a couple of our listings, and my broker had hit me and he was like, "Yo, they're gonna give you a fine because you didn't brand the sign right."
Okay.
And I was like, "Well, what do you mean?" He's like, "Oh, because you're supposed to put the Keller Williams logo on it." And I had just spent like $3,000 on signs. So I was like, yo, I'm not buying new signs.
Yeah.
So they fined me. And when I saw what the fine was, it was like $60. I was like, yo, I'm going to take those fines all day. Because I was like, you know what? They only see my name on that sign. I'm good with that. I'll take the fine.
It's crazy. And I have, seen the last like couple of years, I would get random. So one thing is perception, right? Most people, it's like one of those things is like most people don't know I speak this much. That's first of all, right? Because they go based on what they see and what you show, right? It's perception. But then I have people that know me, like really know me, and I would get random, like, I see you, probably whatever the case may be, and it's just like, bro, you've known me. It's not the first time I'm doing something, right? And it's like, and I say, I get it. It's the first time I'm showing it, right? And because I'm showing it, then it's in people's faces. Now they see it, right? It's there. And I had this conversation with Flo. Shout out to Flo Genius.
Shout out to Flo Genius,
right?
Genius Exposure Media, the hidden gem.
The hidden gem, man. And I said this briefly, is most want to speak to me is not because I've done anything highly successful. It's because they see someone that gets up every day and is consistent and is pushing something consistently, right? That's it. I'm not an innovator. I have not created something on my own. I understand strategic partnerships. I don't have to be the face of anything. And I found success in knowing which planes to jump on, right? With the understanding that I'm coming with some jet fuel. Right? That's it. That's kind of like what I've done in the last couple of years, man. But I tell everyone, in our space, that we have to keep that transparency, because most people think that the next person has figured it out, and that's not the case.
Oh yeah, yeah. The transparency is everything, bro. Like, I say this shit all the time. Like, the first year of my life that I ever hit $1 million in business was the worst year of my life. Worst year of my life on a personal level. IRS, feds ran down on me, like the whole thing. And I remember the very first time that I had to do a speaking engagement, like during that time, like, or right after. And they wanted me to go on stage and talk about my success. And I was like, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
And they was like, oh, but you was just, I said, I'm not doing that because that's not what it is. And they booked me to tell my success story. And I went on stage and I told the exact opposite story.
Yeah.
And they was like, yo, never, like,
Never mind.
never again.
You know, it's crazy. And I have to catch myself even when I have like even conversations like this, right? You have to be conscious that it doesn't go left and I just start just speaking about all the failures, right? Because I find like the failures intriguing. Like, okay, this is what went wrong. This is what I tweaked, right? I've learned from absolutely all my failures, right? All of them, right? We all have lost it all, right? That's not a secret. If you have not lost it all, you know,
God bless because it's coming. God bless because it's coming.
Blessings, right? But I've lost it all multiple times, right? And it's crazy. Talk about full circle. About 13 years ago, lost it all. I've had real estate. I had condos since I was 19 years old. I bought my first condo at 19. I've had homes since throughout my 20s. And I lost it all about 27, 28 years old. And full circle, the founder of WAHIZZA, which is my business partner, at the time lost it all too. And we were having a conversation down in Aventura, Florida. I'll never forget it. And he said, failure is only considered failure when you're not prepared when the next opportunity presents itself. So we haven't failed. We're here. We're just talking about what went wrong the last 2-3 years. But this is not failure. Now, a year from now, 2 years from now, 10 years from now, if someone provides an opportunity and you're not prepared, then you failed.
Then you fail.
Right? So fast forward probably 13 years later, we're having a conversation. He said, you open up WAHIZZA Broadway. And I said, all right, cool. That is taking a conversation 13 years ago and made sure when the opportunity presents itself 13 years later,
I'm ready.
I'm ready. Right? And that's it. That's just full transparency. I can't sit around and say I have it all figured out. I don't, right? I had a conversation, a consultation with a business consultation earlier today. Husband and wife, they're trying to get into their first business. And the wife says, I have so many questions. I'm nervous. I'm scared. Right? And I told her, back to the transparency. I'm scared every day. That's part of this life. You want to get into business. I'm scared every single day. I wake up every single day and I'm scared. But that's what keeps me pushing every day. It's good. Now, energy, when something's meant to be, it'll just flow. It'll just happen organically. You don't really have to push it.
Yeah.
You just have to make sure you're there. You show up every single day. If it's meant to happen, it would happen. Right? You just have to put the pieces in play and eventually it'll happen. Life will happen. But scared, I'm scared every single day. It's a good scare. I'm not in fear. I'm just scared. It's just, they ask, a celebrity, are you going to go on stage? Yeah, I get butterflies. And they go out there and they shut it down, right?
Yeah.
So I get up every day and I have this little anxiety, but I shut shit down. I get up every day and I make sure that I perform. So it's good. It's just good. Don't be scared.
The pressure is a privilege, man.
Correct. That's perfectly said.
Privilege, man. For real.
Perfectly said.
My brother, I appreciate you, man. It's a dope conversation, bro. Thank you for being here. If you haven't already, go check out my man's pizza. I love the CHIMI pizza, but I'm a big fan of the rabo, the oxtail pizza. If you haven't checked it out, go check out WAHIZZA Pizza. Tell them where to find you at. Plug your businesses.
Got you. So, man, we have a whole bunch of locations. So you can find me at WAHIZZA Broadway. That's on 183rd and Broadway. Richfield Park, Edgewater, Clifton, Bayonne, and Englewood. Englewood is coming. It's a major announcement. We just got the lease. Englewood, Palisades Ave. That's going to be around August. Also, follow me at Decoded Management Group. That's the management group. WAHIZZA Broadway. That's one of the WAHIZZA page, WAHIZZA. And personally, my name is Mr. Kenneth J. That's where you kind of see a little bit of my day-to-day. I don't show too much, but I show enough. And that's it, man.
Yo, thank you so much for being here, my brother. Please go follow my man Kenny and support all of his businesses. Reach out to him if you need help with your business or anything that you got going on as far as taxes. He's your guy. Again, brother, I can't thank you enough. Please like, comment, subscribe. We appreciate all of our viewers, listeners. Thank you so much. We'll catch you guys next time.